So under the topic under the textbook is chapter 12. So what is negligence? So negligence basically is a breach of legal duty to take care. Okay, and because of that breach, it resulted in damage undesired to another person. Under the law, we call that person the plaintiff lah. Okay, because usually nama terms plaintiff, defendant ni, plaintiff people kita yang bawa kes ke mahkamah kerana dia tak berpuas hati dengan sesuatu isu lah. And then defendant is the person that needs to defend themselves from the claim. So that's why kita panggil dia defendant. So for torts, if there is any claim of negligence, usually what will happen is plaintiff adalah mangsa lah. Dia affected by the actions done by the defendant. So they bring the case to court. So they are known as the plaintiff. And the defendant is the person yang commit the negligence or alleged to have committed the negligence. And then they are called sebagai defendant. So, untuk membuktikan negligence, there are 3 elements lah you need to show to the court. The first one is the defendant, again the defendant, the term defendant is used, owed the plaintiff a duty of care. So duty of care ni kalau dalam bahasa mudahnya, I usually tell this to my students, duty of care ni maksudnya duty to be careful. Okay, duty to be careful, duty to be to take exceptional care in whatever you do. Okay, that is the first element. The second element is now that you have showed the court that the defendant has a duty to be careful tadi ataupun duty of care, you must also show that the defendant was in breach of his duty. How that happened? Usually that happened when the defendant did not comply with the standard care for any reasonable person. Maksudnya, you as a reasonable man, usually in your daily life, you would have to go about your daily activities, and usually you would be very careful with what you do on your, ni lah contoh lah, I bagi contoh, katalah you naik turun tangga, so usually you be careful when you naik tangga, turun tangga, you will not be rushing or running that you may fall, or if you're driving, you would follow the rules and of the traffic. So you would make sure that your doors to the car is properly closed, not driving with the doors open or half open, things like that. So itu adalah standard care for a reasonable man whenever they're using the car, for instance. The third element is the plaintiff, because the defendant breached this duty. How did they breach again just now? By not complying with the reasonable man's standard of care. And because of that breach, the plaintiff suffered damage lah. Okay, dapat injury, kerosakan, kerosakan peralatan ke. Tapi selalunya untuk case torts ni, kita fokus kepada injury atau damage kepada the plaintiff himself. Okay. So because of the breach of duty, plaintiff suffered damage, and the plaintiff's punya damage ni is not too remote. Okay, if you remember just now, oh I'm sorry, I did not share this tab, sorry. If you remember just now, under Dudley punya case, dia cerita pasal proximate cause, actual cause, okay? So let's have a look back at that video. After this, tapi yang pertama sekali kita nak kena buktikan bila kita bercakap berkenaan dengan negligence is the element of duty of care. Remember I said just now, element duty of care ni bermaksud your duty to be careful, right? Because not every act, kalau you cuai tidak bermakna semua kelakuan yang cuai tadi boleh menyebabkan anda disaman di bawah law of torts, not necessarily, okay? So there are certain elements that the court will look into to show that, oh, actually you have a duty of care. to another person, right? So other a very specific case which we should always refer to and reflect what do we mean by duty of care. Okay, that case is the case of Donahue against Stevenson. So I'm going to play back the video on Donahue against Stevenson from your Google Classroom. Sekejap ya. Oh, sorry. Okay, all the notes have already been uploaded. Sorry, I paused it. Let me just present that to you first.
In August of 1928, May Donahue and a friend decided to visit the Well Meadow Cafe in Paisley for a pear and ice, and in the case of May Donahue, an ice cream and a bottle of ginger beer.
Hello there, David for two, yes?
It has human interest in a very stark way. The two ladies going to the cafe and buying ginger beer.
Everything was paid for by May Donahue's friend.
Ladies, what would you like?
Can I have a pear and
Now, the act of buying a bottle of ginger beer for a friend would not be unusual now, and it wasn't then. It was a transaction that occurred hundreds of times each day in countless cafes across the country.
It appeals to people of all ages, of all interests, and of all levels.
Very nice one for you, is it?
But when her friend bought May Donahue that bottle of ginger beer, the transaction and its aftermath formed the basis of one of the most celebrated and important Scottish cases in world legal history.
Thank you.
When you have the combination of important precedent and an interesting story, it undoubtedly captures the imagination of lawyers.
For in her Stevenson manufactured bottle of ginger beer, May Donahue didn't just get ginger beer.
It's hard to see.
She discovered something else as well.
It's got, you know, Paisley, a cafe, a friend, ice cream, ginger beer, and a decomposed snail. It's just kind of perfect.
The decisions of courts in cases such as Donahue against Stevenson are hugely important and have a significant impact on the development of the law, and as such need to be recorded. They're recorded in volumes of law reports.
Law reporting really dates from the 16th century, when judges started to keep records of cases decided in the Court of Session. Through the 17th century, judicial collections known as practics were made. And some judges' collections were printed. The first of all were those of Lord Stair.
Actually, this is one. This is one of the video, but it's not very apa tu? Because the other one I showed. Okay, let me just. Okay, this one's much better. Let's have a look at it.
Grammarly does more than catch errors. With Grammarly, you can find really good, no, perfect.
In this video, we'll have a look at Donahue and Stevenson. On the evening of 26th August 1928, Mary Donahue went to Well Meadow Cafe in Paisley, Scotland, with her friend. The friend ordered a pear and ice. Or ginger ginger beer on it from a brown and opaque bottle labeled D. Stevenson, Glen Lane, Paisley. Donahue drank some of the ice cream float. Donahue's friend poured the remaining ginger beer into the tumbler, and a decomposed snail also floated out of the bottle. Donahue claimed that she felt ill from the sight, complaining of abdominal pain. She received emergency treatment and subsequently diagnosed with severe gastroenteritis and shock. The case of Donahue and Stevenson establishes three major legal principles. Number one, it established that negligence is a tort. As the defendant has not purchased the ginger beer, she could not establish a contractual agreement with Stevenson, the ginger beer manufacturer. 2. The manufacturer has a duty of care to the final consumer. And finally, number 3, the neighbor principle, the rule that you must love thy neighbor, which becomes in law as you must not injure your neighbor. Thanks a lot for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please...
Okay. Let's go back. Okay. All right. So those are some of the principles highlighted from the case Donahue v. Stevenson. So this Donahue v. Stevenson, kalau you belajar law, memang everybody would have heard of it. Especially if you studied, even if you studied contract pun, the issue would arise when you discuss privity of contract. Sebab the issue in this case is that bila dia pergi ke kedai untuk minum tadi, yang beli botol ginger beer tu is somebody else. So if you want to sue that person in contract for a breach of a quality product or whatever, you can't sue that person because you did not buy the ginger beer bottle. So that's what made this become an issue under tort. Sebab under this case, the manufacturer, the ginger beer bottle too, actually is considered by court to have a duty, what we call a duty of care, to every single person who actually bought or actually will drink from the ginger beer bottle, regardless of whether they actually buy the product. Contohnya macam katalah your parents beli makanan atau minuman, mestilah manufacturer kilang to expect that when we buy a bottle of something that huge in bulk dan sebagainya, bila kita bawa pulang ke rumah, chances are not the only person yang beli itu saja yang akan minum atau makan, tapi ada ramai lagi orang dalam household tu yang akan makan. Jadi the manufacturer may not have owed a contractual duty towards the person who bought it only, but they also have a duty of care towards every other person that actually will be foreseeable. Chances are dia orang akan minum atau makan juga daripada produk yang dihasilkan oleh kilang tersebut. Maka kilang tadi ada duty of care, ada duty untuk be careful to make sure produk dia tidak akan mendatangkan sebarang injury kepada orang-orang yang membeli itu ataupun orang awam yang terkait dengan pembelian tadi. Okay, so macam you tengok dalam video tadi, dalam kes ni apa yang jadi, dia minum, lepas tu botol tu macam botol kecap. Botol kecap tu opaque, maksudnya dia tak nampak, it's not transparent, you cannot see through the bottle. So what happened towards the end of the product tu, ginger beer bottle tadi tu, bila dia tuang tu, terkeluarlah siput babi, baby lah, siput babi yang baby lagi. Maksudnya dalam proses pembuatan ginger beer, air ginger beer itu, botol tu mungkin terbiasa terlapang, tidak tertutup, maka malamnya mungkin produk pada ginger siput tadi tu crawl into the ginger beer bottle, dan berapa lama dia duduk dalam tu, dia jadi jeruk dalam botol tu pun kita tak tahu. So sebaik saja Paisley kan apa dia discovered that dia jatuh sakit lah. So because of that she sued the manufacturer. Initially the manufacturer kata, oh saya tak ada contractual duty, yang beli ni orang lain kan, jadi saya tak ada contractual duty towards you. But the court finally said that this is what we consider sebagai under the law of tort. So the principle yang penting dia cakap, the rule is you should love your neighbour. Okay. So neighbour, kenapa digunakan perkataan neighbour? Kerana neighbour ni selalunya kita maksudkan orang yang dekat dengan kita lah, jiran tetangga kita kan. So dalam undang-undang dia gunakan perkataan neighbour atau kejiranan ataupun jiran bukan nak menunjukkan hanya orang sebelah sahaja yang penting, tapi dia nak maksudkan term mereka-mereka yang affected dengan action kita, yang dekat dengan kita. Itu maksudnya neighbour principle tadi. So the court also try to respond to that. Dia kata, who is your neighbour actually? So dia kata, you must take reasonable care to avoid acts or omission which can reasonably foreseeable or foresee would likely to injure your neighbour. But who is the neighbour? Neighbour ni maksudnya anyone who is closely and directly affected by your act that you should have thought of when you do something. Okay, so samalah macam kilang tu kan. Who are considered neighbour? Neighbour is whoever is going to drink the ginger beer bottle tadi lah. Sama juga bila you drive a car. Who is your neighbour when you drive the car? Takkanlah jiran rumah sebelah you kan, because you're already on the road. So the neighbour here is considered as the person yang dekat-dekat dengan kereta you lah, on the road. Mungkin lane sebelah kanan, lane sebelah kiri, mungkin berjalan kaki kat tepi jalan. So those people are considered your neighbour. So in order to establish that, you have a duty of care. Inilah rules dia. You consider who are your neighbour and you consider also the test here. Whether injury itu adalah something yang you can expect kalau you drive not so carefully, recklessly. So if you swerve to the right or to the left, you may affect people from the right lane, the left lane. Or if you tak bawa kereta, you langgar curb, you langgar orang tepi jalan. So itu adalah perkara-perkara yang akan mengakibatkan sebenarnya membuktikan bahawasanya you actually have a duty to be careful. Duty of care. So ada beberapa kes yang boleh rujuk di sini. Okay, antaranya kes Haley against London Electricity Board. Okay, ini berkenaan dengan dia korek lubang kat tepi jalan untuk macam buat maintenance work dan sebagainya. Tetapi dia tutup, tapi dia tak tutup dengan betul hingga menyebabkan ada seseorang yang buta dalam kes ni, dia terjatuh ke dalam lubang tersebut. Okay, so mahkamah mendapati walaupun dia ada precaution taken, tapi tak cukup untuk melindungi mereka-mereka yang buta. Okay, dan mahkamah juga found out that there are a number of blind person walking along that street. And the number is sufficient to require defendant to take extra precaution appropriate to avoid people yang blind from walking into the trench ataupun the hole just now. Okay, I bagi contoh, macam contoh ada kita kawasan di Brickfields. Kawasan tu adalah kawasan training center ataupun organisation center untuk mereka-mereka yang buta di Malaysia. Jadi kalau di situ TNB suddenly wanted to make a maintenance work, tetapi dia tak letak penghadang atau penghalang untuk mengelakkan mereka-mereka yang buta ini daripada jatuh ke dalam lubang tersebut, maka mahkamah boleh mendapati TNB atau mereka-mereka yang menjalankan sebarang kerja maintenance tadi sebenarnya telah breach ada duty of care tersebut dan dah breach duty of care. Okay, so ini konsep duty of care that you should really understand. Sorry about that. Okay, so I'm going to stop now.